the attorney who's changing how to navigate life after bariatric surgery. 6 years post-op and thriving, he noticed something critical was missing. Real talk about the challenges that follow weight loss surgery. When COVID hit, he launched an online support group that quickly became a lifeline for patients facing those unexpected potholes on their journey. Coming up, he's sharing his straight talk approach on our podcast, helping others spot the traps before falling in.
Do you know what's in your vitamins? ProCare Health does. Made in the USA, it's certified facilities. Each batch is independently lab tested to ensure purity and potency. Why settle for less when you can have the most affordable, high-quality vitamins delivered to your door? Visit ProCareNow.com. Use code BSS10 to save 10%.
I'm bariatric dietitian Dr. Susan Mitchell. You're listening to the Bariatric Surgery Success podcast. I'm so glad you're here today, that you've joined us. It matters where you get your nutrition information. When it comes to bariatric surgery and also the use of GLP-1 medications, nutrition is specific. You're in the right place, friend. Here's what you need to know now. Let's get started. Joining me in the studio is Erin Goodman, an attorney from Oklahoma who had a vertical sleeve gastrectomy, or VSG, in 2019, resulting in extremely successful weight loss. He's been a featured columnist in both Weight Matters and Bariatric Times. During 2020 and the pandemic, Erin started an online group for post-op bariatric patients like himself, since there was very little support available. And the group continues today, passionate about empowering bariatric patients with practical information. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, is Erin's favorite saying, and one he shares constantly. You can find links to Erin's contact information in the show notes. Well, hello, Erin, and welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Dr. Susan, for having me this morning. It is an honor and pleasure to be here with your audience and you today, and I am just so excited to be here.
Well, we are too. Everyone always wants to know, Erin, what made you decide first on bariatric surgery and then on a VSG in particular?
Oh, absolutely. And I just appreciate being able to talk about this from the patient standpoint. And that is something that, as you announced in your intro, I have nothing to do with healthcare. So please, everybody listening to this, if you hear something that Erin says it doesn't match what your providers say and your program says, please take it to your program. Please listen to your program, not Erin, and understand that, a lot of what is so exciting about the journey with weight loss surgery, in my experience, nearly 6 years out, is going to differ from somebody who's 6 months out. It's one of those things, and Dr. Susan, with your friends and your patients that have had weight loss surgery, they understand, and those that are considering the process, which I hope really excited about this podcast that we're doing today. It's important to understand that somebody who's 6 weeks out, 6 months out, a year out is going to be at a different phase of their journey. And so there's going to be things that I can do at 6 years out or nearly 6 years out that are just not in the playbook for somebody who is not as far out. And
Absolutely. In fact, this morning, a lot of people are probably thinking, now, why, Erin, did you do it? What made you decide these years back that this was the right way to go? Especially as we'll talk about coming up, that not as many men do bariatric surgery as women. So what drew you there? What made you know this is for me?
So one of the things is that for me, with my health history, like a lot of people, I came to the bariatric surgery table with chronic illness. And so it is something that for me, I had bilateral chronic kidney disease. And in fact, it had actually gotten to the point in 2017 that I had my right kidney removed for a tumor. And so as a result of that, with some lingering chronic kidney issue, I had to find a way to reduce my body weight. I had to find a way. And so it was something that, it's a great question. How did I come to bariatric surgery? That was actually not my intention, was to go to bariatric surgery, but it was something that I had known some people that had it. I had heard about it. And it was actually somebody connected with my nephrologist's office that had suggested it to me. And story I like to tell is, so on my own, I tried to do in 2018. I had found a kidney certified dietitian, and those are fairly rare.
Yep, they
And
are.
I had tried to get in with this particular dietitian, but was told when I called up they weren't taking new patients. And so it was really frustrating. So I kind of languished and for a while. Well, then when I got on the bariatric surgery sort of tract, if you will, that it is something that this single dietitian was on the list of approved providers for my bariatric program. And so it was something like, oh my gosh, here I have this opportunity now, like a year
Yeah.
later, to get in with her. And she's still my dietitian to this day. She has been phenomenal. I'm so blessed to have her as my dietitian. And so when you ask why the vertical sleeve, it was because for me, when I was on the cusp, the evening before, if you will, everybody weighs before you do your 2-week liquid diet. Before, some people do a longer liquid diet. Where I was, my BMI was a 41. And so that's different than somebody whose BMI was a 51 or a 61. And so in consultation with the surgeon, it was decided that the sleeve was an appropriate surgery for me. Please understand that is when preoperative patients will consult with their surgery teams, and they'll go over the pros and cons of a bypass or Roux-en-Y, pros and cons of a sleeve, the pros and cons of a SADI or a duodenal switch, or some of the other mechanisms that are done. There are pros and cons with each. For me, the sleeve was appropriate because of what I needed to lose and what my body really required with regard to my needs that I came to the table with.
One of the things that you said that I think is so important is that each person, you may have a friend that said, well, I had this surgery and I have been so successful. I know it'll work for you. But I always tell people what works for your best friend might not be your solution. And it does depend on your health at the moment, what's going on in your life, and then what is the best fit for you. So I'm so glad that you said that, because I like each person to go in and say, based on my needs, what fits me the best? What type of surgery or endoscopic procedure, now that we have those becoming more available, which one is right for me?
It has to be a holistic and team approach
Mhm.
between the patient and their care team. And my needs are different when I went under the knife at 45 as a male versus somebody who may be 63 and female, and, or any variation in between there. So exactly.
Do you get my weekly newsletter called Breaking Down Nutrition? It's a quick way to keep up on nutrition for your bariatric lifestyle. You're the first to know about helpful nutrition tips, recipes, giveaways, product specials, the latest podcasts, and upcoming interviews that you don't want to miss, just like today with Erin. It's free, and you can sign up right now on my website, breakingdownnutrition.com. Yeah. In one of your articles, you talk about this common reality of the post-op bariatric experience. Basically, in a nutshell, you refer to it as we stand alone together. What do you mean we stand alone together?
Well, because I think that is one of the most important concepts when it comes to the post-operative life. But I do want to say this, though, and that is that I want everybody to understand that the post-operative life, my success has been something that has taken an immense amount of work. And it is something
Yes.
that with these wonderful Instagram, of which I am not an Instagram model and never will be, but it is something that I want people to understand that bariatric surgery, when you hear people say that's the easy way out, they couldn't be more wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Bariatric surgery
I'm
takes an immense amount of
out of
work.
work. And it's
It
the
is
first step. It's the tool in the toolbox. It's the first step to then a lifestyle that is a daily daily thing. It isn't just a one and done like many people, I think, sometimes are misled to believe, or especially by things posted online. It is hard work.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing is that I really want to be honest with your audience and say that if we're going to be completely transparent, who I really am is somebody who deals with emotional eating, who would just assume sit on the recliner at night watching TV, snacking to the end of time. That's who I really am. And except for the fact that in this journey that I've been so blessed to go down, I've learned about myself. And that is
Mm.
one of the coolest things that I just want to convey. One of the neatest parts of being in the bariatric world is that self-exploration and this investment in yourself. And that is what bariatric surgery is and should be. It should be an investment in yourself for long-term sustained safe health and positive measured growth and on this journey. And it's one of those things that I think so many times people come to bariatric surgery and all they have their eyes on is moving the numbers on the scale, but it's so
Yeah,
much
yeah. It's
more than
so much
that.
more than the scale. And so when
And
you're talking about the journey, as you're mentioning, that everyone goes on that has surgery, you're on your own, but yet you're together. So bring us back to the we stand alone together, and
sure,
talk a bit
sure.
more about that.
Sure. And I do want to say to everyone that is either post-operative or pre-operative, and that is you're going to need a lot of support in your
Yes.
journey. And I will say, quite frankly, that number one, I couldn't do this without God because it is something that for me, it is something that I have been given blessings and grace that have been immeasurable. Otherwise, I would fail daily. And second is my wife. And I have been so blessed with
Um,
good family support. And this is important. You will not do this alone. The third thing is I've been blessed with everybody who's ever talked to my support group, all my wonderful speakers. They have poured into me, they have taught me, and they've educated me. And in order to be a success, you have to educate yourself.
yes.
And finally, other patients, I've learned so much from other post-operative patients and their journeys. And that plays into we stand alone together because that is the issue of why I believe it is something that in order to be successful, you have to understand this concept of we stand alone together. Where does that come from? Well, the Band of Brothers series on HBO, the
Yeah.
name of the very final series was called Band of Brothers, and it was actually a documentary about the real life heroes that they showed in fiction on the Band of Brothers series. And I love that just that phrase, the we stand alone together. I love that phrase because of the fact that as bariatric patients, we ourselves have to walk out our own journeys. Nobody can tell us not to do this or tell us to do this and have it stick. We've got to make those choices, those good decisions, honestly, those humbling sorts of actions and decisions that are going
Yeah.
to lead to a healthy lifestyle. However,
Absolutely.
and this is the thing that's really interesting. I think a lot of clinicians fail to appreciate this in the bariatric world, and that is how lonely this journey can be when you are giving up your past lifestyle that was unhealthy, but it was the devil that you knew.
Oh,
And
it's,
then you're
yeah. And I totally agree with that. In fact, the podcast we had up just recently talked about, I was talking with Dr. Connie Stapleton, the bariatric psychologist that's on the podcast a lot. And we were talking about how bariatric surgery, and even now the weight loss from GLP-1s, when it's significant, it changes the status quo in relationships, whether it's marriages or a friendship or family dynamics. It's what you've always done is now no longer happening, and things get changed and have to be worked through often. And sometimes I really believe exactly what you're saying is that bariatric surgery can be very lonely. And the key to success is having that support around you as you develop your lifestyle.
That's right. And by the way, I do want to kind of put a plug in, and this. I don't want to embarrass you, but your episode number 100 that you had Connie on, I listened to it. It was amazing. I think she is incredible. I would
Yeah.
love someday to be able to visit with her, because I think that she has a wealth of wonderful
Oh, she
information.
does. Absolutely. She gets on here. She is one of those, I always laugh and tell her she brings her A game and she cuts right to it. She gets through the fluff and tells it like it is. Sometimes you
Hey,
don't want to hear it, but you know that you need to hear it, that type of thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I will be the first to say that to be a phenomenal assistant to anyone, and to be to be honestly a good post-operative patient, you've got to be brutal with yourself at times. That's one of the things I like about her. She is just completely spot on what she says.
Yeah.
So, and with regard to the standalone together, it is something that I don't think, until you're walking your journey out,
Mhm.
you appreciate how lonely the post-operative journey can be if you try to do it all yourself.
Right.
And that's where those support groups are just so pivotal, to go, whoa, I'm not alone. There are other people that have the same issue. And that's something, again, I've heard it said, I've lived it. There's really nothing new under the sun when it comes to the bariatric world as far as what post-operative life is like. Somebody else has probably gone through it. And so you find that in support groups, that you are not alone. And it's that community. And that's another thing I love about post-op life. No matter what we look like, no matter what background we came from, no matter where we live, if we're in Seattle or New York or
Yeah.
San Diego or Miami Beach, we all have this in common. And it doesn't matter who we are, what we look like, where we came from. We are unified as post-operative patients in this journey together. And the other thing too is, I'll say this, Dr. Susan, a lot of times it's funny, because sometimes people get jealous of other people's success, or if they're in a period or a season where they're off track, and they see other people that are on track, and they get kind of jealous. And I just want to say, look, it's not
Yeah.
like there's some universal sum total of currency that only so many people can be successful at any given time. We can all be successful. We can all not be successful, and it's completely independent. And it's so important to realize that, again, we stand alone together. You've got to walk out your own
Yeah.
journey, and you've got to do your program and do you alone, but
And at your own pace.
at your own pace, because
That's
again,
what's really important as well.
absolutely. And that's another thing too. I think people get, especially early on in the bariatric process, they freak out about plateaus.
Oh, yeah.
And what I mean by plateau, as you're losing weight, you'll kind of stall for a little bit, and then you'll keep going again. And that's what I want to tell everybody is, don't freak out. It's a normal and natural part of the biological process. You
Oh,
can
for
only,
sure. That's what the body does. Yeah.
but
And
it
it's
scares so many
a-okay.
new bariatric
Yeah.
patients. And I just want to say, don't be scared of that. It's normal, natural, and I'd be a little scared if you didn't plateau
Yeah.
at times.
Oh, absolutely. You mentioned to me that before we ever came on air, that you like to dig into things that can go wrong after surgery, because you really have a heart to help others recognize and react to the ebbs and flows that they're likely to experience, which everyone does. So you're about 6 years out from surgery now. You continue to be very successful in your lifestyle. When you look back at your journey over the last 6 years, do you think that someone who's less than a year out has different questions for you than someone that's 1 to 2 years post op? I do. And the questions that I get nutritionally are very different depending on where they are and how far along the journey. In your group, when you all are talking, do you see different questions?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I know off air we talked about the fact that one of my favorite quotes, and I got to credit Steve Harvey on this one, the road to success is always under construction. And
For
so
sure.
that's so important, because you have to understand that the bariatric journey is a road that is always under construction. And so if I can just leave the audience with one thought, and that is, long-term success as a post-operative weight loss surgery patient requires an intentional and organized system of maintenance. And it is just that organization and that intentionality
Mhm.
is critical, because you have to, whether your first year or 15th year, if you want to maintain, you have to be organized. And so I do want to say one thing too, that I think is worthwhile with regard to weight gain, regain, that sort of thing, because that's one of the biggest issues just in general post-operatively, and that is there are normal and expected weight fluctuations that are good. And when that comes, it's usually after you hit your lowest point after weight loss. Your body's going to find a set point, and it's going to find a normal weight. So you will regain a little bit of weight after reaching your lowest point, and that's expected and normal. And so first year patients who complete the first year, they get done with the honeymoon stage, should not worry about that. Your body is
Yeah.
going to find a happy place that is normal if you're working your bariatric post-operative program.
I agree
Nothing
with
wrong with
that.
that.
And to
Nothing wrong
remember
with that.
too that it isn't about motivation. People say, I'm just not motivated, or I've lost my motivation. Well, motivation does just that. It ebbs and flows. It isn't about being motivated. It's about a mindset. So not motivation, but mindset. It's about a commitment, as you were just saying, to a game plan, to a strategy, to a lifestyle that is going to work for you and your life and the type of surgery that you had. And there are days when that just doesn't happen. And then there are days when you're thinking, wow, this was just a great day. And that is part of life. So you don't beat yourself up when you say, I'm not motivated, because motivation doesn't lead to success. It's the mindset and the plans that you have. Such great information. Erin, thank you that you were so authentic today, that you have shared what you've been through, but not just what you've been through, how you've turned that into a lifestyle that works and works for you for continued success. I know that my listeners are going to find different tidbits throughout this that's going to help them in their decisions and in their journey. Thank you so much for giving your time today to be here.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor and a privilege to be here, Dr. Susan. And I just appreciate your podcast and what you do for everybody.
Well, thank you. And just remember, you heard what Erin said. He shared so much good information today. So here's what I want you to do. Take the time, whether you're thinking about bariatric surgery, whether you've already had it and you're only a year out, maybe you're 2 or 3 years down the road. If you're facing struggles, if you're starting to regain weight, if you're thinking, I'm eating for the wrong reasons, take a step back. Ask yourself, what do I need to do? What help do I need right now? And get it. It's totally okay. It's the thing to do because you are worth it.
Bariatric Surgery Success with dietitian Dr. Susan Mitchell is produced and owned by Practicalories LLC. All rights reserved. Remember, the content provided on this podcast is for information purposes only and doesn't create a patient-provider relationship. It's intended to provide reference material and is not designed to provide medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider regarding any medical issues you have relating to symptoms, conditions, diseases, diagnosis, treatments, and side effects. Podcast guests express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions which do not necessarily reflect or agree with the host, Dr. Susan Mitchell or Practicalories LLC.